Keith, how about that free agent frenzy right now? Jesus, with the NFL, it's like I don't even know what's going on right now. Like everybody's trading
Well, I
left
don't
and right.
understand why you'd give a alleged sex pest a fully guaranteed 230 million, knowing full well that he might be suspended for an entire year. And sign the alleged sex pest a week after International Women's Day. A week after your franchise tweeted out saying how much they appreciate the contribution of women to this city of Cleveland and to the Cleveland Browns. So well done, Cleveland.
And we are
yeah. I'm absolutely baffled by what's happening in Cleveland. It's somewhere between 1 and 22 that I stopped believing Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, what did they say? There's always a number where it's like
you can't. There is no way that
there's within a number to say like there is within reason to say like okay maybe
this could be a conspiracy.
But we are way past that number. Like there's no way that these 22 women all colluded together to say let's go for Deshaun Watson. Like that's just not a legitimate thing. Like,
particularly when he admitted to the behavior himself in the first place.
Right. I mean, that makes no sense to me. No sense.
Not only is his behavior weird, it's also abhorrent, and the fact that it could be so easily glossed over because he's a talented athlete and he might win Cleveland some football games.
I just hope he never wins them a Super Bowl. Like,
I hope he doesn't. I hope he just doesn't win the first 4 games because people will be after him for, as soon as that. Because the mob is fickle.
That's true.
So
they will turn on him quickly if he does not win the football games. It's also very interesting how like when it's your team, they seem to like if this was the Bears and they did this, I probably would not cheer for them at all until he is off the team. Like I would be appalled. But like it's interesting to see when the shoe's on your foot, that they're willing to look a blind eye to all the fans are. And I've heard from some friends of mine that have fans that are like Cleveland fans, and they're like, yeah, but it's only it's just like, no, there's no excuse. You can't, just because it's your team, you can't defend that.
Yeah, I was listening to the Jason and OC podcast. So OC Umanura has lived in the UK since retiring from the NFL, and he does the NFL coverage over here. And this was going back when the allegations first came out. And he was asking his friend and ex-Giants teammate, Jason Bell, who also does the NFL coverage in the UK, how many masseuses do you think I've had in my entire career? So he played for 12 years. How many masseuses do you think he had during that time?
One or two.
One.
Yeah, because usually if you like them, you keep them.
Yeah,
especially if they do a good job, right? Because it was
the team
is to help your body be successful on the field, not to get sex.
So all of that stuff that Deshaun Watson was saying, over 5 years, I needed 40 different masseuses because I needed the attention. Get out of here, you absolute alleged sex pest! Right, we're not here to talk about the NFL. Liam's just left on purpose.
My camera just appeared.
Yeah, I've never seen this this thing before. This icon, so interesting.
Yes, we are Pixel Pints. We are the only.
Hold on. Shelburne says, "So what would that mean? Would you call the public pest control then?"
Well, it depends. If they end up boycotting the games, which I can't see people doing, or sponsors leaving en masse, which they already haven't done.
Yeah.
Then yes, but without sponsors and fans voting with their wallets, which is much easier to do in sport than it is with video games.
No, it's not. What are you talking about?
It is, because if you're talking about, say, something like what's happened with Activision Blizzard and that scandal, when you're talking about a global product in something like World of Warcraft or Overwatch, there are going to be people around the world who aren't going to care so much as something that's actually hitting their own specific piece of the world. So people link onto sports franchises in a different way than I would to video game franchises. So unless something changes around that, in terms of the fans in Cleveland saying, I'm not going to go because, but if he starts winning games, they'll go back. And that's what the ownership and the GM and management and back office, that's what they want people to think. So he's going to win us some games, and he's not getting criminally indicted, but that doesn't mean you're innocent. That just means that a prosecutor didn't think that they could bring a case that they could win.
Yeah, not enough sufficient evidence to feel like they would get a conviction. That's the whole thing. But final point about you, I still, I get what you mean, but at the same time, because the NFL has so much money in TV, if fans just stop buying seats, that's not going to change anything.
It will in Cleveland.
I don't think it will.
Because if you're wanting to fill a 68,000 seat stadium every week.
You'd want to, but it doesn't matter because you still get so much money from the TV
contracts. That's a hell of a lot of money for the owners to miss out on, because the owner, all of that money within that stadium is instant cash.
Oh, I bet. It just, it just comes down to, I think if a team can pull out for the name of the Washington Redskins, and thanks God it's gone, which is now the Washington Commanders, I think that sponsors in Cleveland should be smart enough to be able to pull out from Cleveland to not be associated with a alleged sex pest. That's it.
Right, and now we can do the intro. Hello, we are Pixel Pints. We are the only global podcast that talks about two things that we enjoy, which is good beer and video games. We're not here to promote drinking. Please drink responsibly, particularly at 7 o'clock in the morning, or if you're at work. I can't drink when I'm at work. I'd get sacked, even if I'm working from home. If anyone found out, I'd get immediately fired. We do our podcast normally every week. We've missed a couple of weekends recently. We stream over weekend, and then we archive our episodes on our YouTube channel. We also post them to anchor.fm, so you can pick up the audio version of the podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, pretty much wherever you can find podcasts. You will find the frothy mug for Pixel Pints. You can please follow us on Pixel_Pints on Twitter to find out when we're going live and what we might be talking about, and generally retweeting other people's stuff. Our main account is our Instagram account, which is Pixel Pints Pod, where I mainly post pictures of beers and game clips. Evan, well done. Thanks for posting on the Instagram account again of the new bar in Kyoto, which looks really cool.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, quick round the room. Liam, how's things with you?
Yeah, going good. Not much going on at the minute. I've literally just been playing Elden Ring.
Yeah. So it's kind of eat, sleep, Elden Ring, repeat.
Yeah, pretty much. I wish I didn't have to mix work into that equation. I could be done with it by now.
Is Elden Ring not work?
No, I enjoyed the shit out of it.
Do you have your own pad and pen so that you can write down all of your own quest log? Because having one in the game would just be stupid.
No, they took it back. Remember, they did an update, and now that you can populate where NPCs are located, they took it back.
It's still not because as I guess
so much for creative integrity.
Accessible. Not quite as accessible as other games. It's not really a thing. It's just nice because it helps you keep track of where certain NPCs are. But to be honest, that never really bothered me to begin with, so they could have kept that out. Yeah, but the game's great. I love it to pieces. I literally, it's one of my favorite games I've ever played.
So when you beat a boss, do you wring your hands?
Wring my hands?
Yes.
Why would I do that?
Because you just beat a boss, and it's called Elden Ring, and you can wring your hands. If you're getting particularly hot under the collar, do you wring out your shirts? I'm just trying to get as many Ring references as I possibly can. Anyway, enough about that. We'll talk more about Elden Ring Sting in a moment. Mitch, how's things in LA?
Things are very good. Shelburne, yes, we are not winging it. We are ringing it.
I see.
True story.
True story. Not good. I played some It Takes Two. That was fun. I had a lot. We're almost. My friend and I are almost done with our first playthrough of that game. I'm still getting very happy and surprised, and it's really good. Like, I can totally now understand for the most part. I'm holding all the final opinions until I finish it, but I do see why it was Game of the Year. Like, it well deserved. Like, it does very clever things that I don't think other games do, which gives it that unique factor, and I think it is a lot of fun.
How dare you? It's not Breath of the Wild.
No.
Breath of the Wild should win Game of the Year every year. Every year that's on sale should win Game of the Year.
No, Keith.
Because it's so new.
Elden Ring has replaced it.
Like,
God damn it, man.
Well, I think technically, does it do something different? No. Like, the gameplay elements that they pop into the game are actually pulled from other games, but it's just so fresh on how they throw it in that it literally just makes you it changes up the gameplay loop so well, because it makes you always surprised that you're going to actually try something new every time, and it's not the same old. Because if it was the same old, I would be like, yeah, this is not that fun. But because they constantly are changing up the gameplay loop by introducing new elements into the game that they pull from other games, like I was playing a top-down beat 'em up. I was doing like a Tekken style fight scene. There's just so much that they nooks and crannies they throw in that it just makes it way more interesting. And I've been enjoying that the whole time. And I've been playing some Horizon as well, but I really need to get back to playing way more Horizon, because I'm not even halfway done. I hit the part where you finally figure out what you need to do and your home base, but I need to get way further than that.
So Shelburne's asking about It Takes Two. Does it have playthrough value outside of playing it with multiple people? Now, as far as I know, you have to play it.
You have to play with multiple people. That's a requirement. I think part of the fun is playing with someone you know. Like, I will say that for sure. Like, my friend and I, we video call every time we play, and it is way more fun that way, because there's things that It Takes Two does. Like, one of the game loop elements that they constantly introduce into the game is they have these mini games where you compete against each other, and that is something that it has nothing to do with the story path, but it's really fun to do. And we always do these things when we do it 2 out of 3. It's an example, we were on a swing set, and you have to swing up and down, and then if you time it right, you have to fly off the swing and then slide across as far as possible with the momentum your swing gave you. And so we did 2 out of 3 of that. What I meant is playing it with a different person other than sorry, I should finish that, because no one can read what I'm reading without me saying it. Sorry, people, on a podcast. Shelburne said what he meant is playing it with a different person other than your first playthrough. I think it's probably, maybe it would just depend on the person you're playing with. I would say, an example, the person I'm playing with right now is an experienced gamer. Would I maybe throw this off and do it with someone like my mom who doesn't play games? I would find that interesting to play with her and play that, because it's so accessible as a game for general public players, that I think it would actually be interesting to play with someone like my mom, or even my dad. So I think there is...
Wouldn't your dad be wondering where the tank controls in Resident Evil are?
No, he plays modern games. He has played the new Resident Evil. So he does play modern games. But yes, Shelburne, to answer your question, I think there is replayability. It just depends on who your partner is. And I think there is opportunities for real, genuine surprises. If you're pulling from maybe unexperienced gamers and experienced gamers, I think it's more of a... This studio does a really good job of this. I'm sorry I'm talking so long, but I'll finish this with the final point. I think what the studio does so well is they truly capture couch co-op back in the day. like the experience of playing with different people and playing the same game, but like the experience is completely different because of the people you play with, not necessarily the game you play. And I think with this game, it captures that again. And that is something that is so refreshing, that I really, truly missed. So,
did you bring this up because it's the Oscars tonight?
It is the Oscars tonight. No, which actually, for the record, the Oscars is just down the street. I could go.
Are you going to put on a mask of Jason Ferris and just go, fuck the Oscars?
Oh, that would be hilarious. I thought you were gonna like put on the Joker mask and like try to get into the Oscars, being like, "Hey, did I get nominated again this year?"
Scared out of them.
But yeah, no, they're just down the street. I'm actually looking forward to maybe like walking by just to see like what it's like on the outside in LA, like what it would look like. Because last time I was here for the Oscars, I was not living in this area, and then last year they did it at a train station instead of the Dolby Theater. So, but yeah, no, I did not say that because of the Oscars. But yes, go play It Takes Two. I think it is amazing.
I have it in a box in this cupboard.
You and your wife will really enjoy that game. Like,
to play with Mrs. McWomble at some point.
Yeah, and I think then you and even Burkoff would like probably have fun playing it together too.
Yeah, so at least unlike Streets of Rage 4, the netcode seems to work.
Yeah, and also you only need one copy of the game, which I think is amazing. Like, that's great.
Yeah, and it's also on Game Pass now, so you can. Whilst I got a hard copy, you can download it on Game Pass, and the other person doesn't need Game Pass to play it either. So I think you do. I think you do need a Game Pass Ultimate to be able to do that.
Well, hey Keith, then don't open up that physical copy because it's Game of the Year winner. It might be worth something in 10 years.
No, probably not. I think they printed so many of those, it's not going to make a bloody difference.
How are you doing, Keith?
I'm all right. I'm a bit tired. The clock's changed, so we're back on.
Are you guys
normal
following?
time?
Are you guys following our suit in like, because we're passing laws to say
get rid of daylight savings?
Yeah.
No, of course we can't, because we want to go back to the Victorian institutions that we've gotten rid of.
The Queen demands it. The Queen must have her clocks changed.
Well, yeah,
there's some sense in this country. Like, America's such a vast, different terrain that it really doesn't make that much sense in certain parts of the country.
Well, quick fun fact. Apparently it was, and I have to do more research to confirm whether it's true or not, but I trust the source I heard it from, because they're a news reputable website and I trust their facts. But they said they did this back. They've already done this before. And then 5 years later, they changed it back because it was a bad idea. But that was in the 70s. Who knows?
Well,
40, 50 years might have changed something. So who knows? We'll give it a shot.
Well, you know what the past 10 years have been about, Mitch. It's repeating every bad idea that we've done before because we need to learn a lesson again.
It's not about learning the lesson again. It's about getting the rewards again. That gameplay loop feels so good. Okay, Keith, go ahead. Besides that, how are you doing?
Yeah. Let's talk about beers.
Meh. Oh, whoa. I was not ready.
You weren't ready with the transition. How dare you?
I completely forgot about it. This is what happens when we take a week off. Like, I am on like vacation. The transition.
Right,
so you're good.
So I'm assuming that neither of you have got beers or interesting beverages. Mitch, you're probably drinking some flavored Red Bull.
Yes, I'm drinking the regular Red Bull. It's called fancy.
And just for balance, we need to say that Ferrari are a better racing team than Red Bull. And I don't at all feel sorry for Michael Massey because he was manipulated into letting Max Verstappen win the championship last year, which everyone wants to forget about.
By the way, thank you, Shelburne. He does not like beer, but he loves the background. I worked hard to find this one. It's the bubbles. I love the bubbles. I'm so happy I found this one.
So I have my last Hitachino Nest beer, which is their white ale, which is basically just a wit beer, but they call it a white ale. It's very straw-coloured and hazy. It's 5.5%, which is the lowest of the ABVs that I've had from Hitachino. But they must have done a big deal with some of the supermarkets in the UK, because I hadn't seen this stuff until a couple of weeks ago, and now it seems to be regularly popping up in their craft beer sections. So, yep, wheat beer, coriander, orange peel, and nutmeg. Refreshing, spicy notes. It's all right. It's nothing. It's genuinely
that smile
the least.
almost looks like I'm saying it's all right, but I absolutely hate it. But I don't want to like give it away. That's what the smile looked like. I don't know if that's what you were going for, but that's what your face sold me.
No, it's the least interesting out of all of the ones I've tried.
That's the face I was going for. It was,
Yeah.
It's like not bad, but it's like,
It's perfectly drinkable. It's just not that interesting compared to some Belgian and German wit beers that I've had in the past that are much more flavourful, much more interesting on the palate, and have a much more special lingering aftertaste. This is just pretty bland, if I'm honest. I do have another beer which I'll get onto, which I'm hoping is more interesting because the name is brilliant.
Gun-toting.
The gun-toting.
Nano Penguin. Nano Penguin.
Gun-toting Nano Penguin Peach Pale Ale.
Ooh, fancy.
From Drygate Brewery.
Wait, so is there a penguin in the picture with a gun holster? Totem?
Yeah, it looks like he's doing the James Bond pose, but he's a penguin.
Show me the picture. Oh, I see him. Okay, cool. I like it.
So I shall have that afterwards. Use a different glass if you're drinking different beers, otherwise it will taint the flavour. Or wash out your glasses. Speaking of beers, I've managed to cajole Evan and Matt into doing a blind taste test of random lagers. So we're going to be doing one for Matt with beers that he can find in the US, one that I can find kind of standard shop bought, nothing special, and then Evan will do one for beers in Japan, and then I'll cut all those together and post them on our YouTube channel.
Cool.
And I shall do mine this weekend, which hopefully people might find interesting. See how uneducated our palates actually are.
I dig it.
And that's the colour of the peach ale, which is actually quite peachy. Oh, wow. That's mega fruity.
Oh, you'll love it then.
That would be a lovely summer beer, but I would only have one.
Okay.
It's one of those things, you know, if you're drinking or eating the same thing, you need something to wake your palate back up.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a perfect way of doing it. So just a massive fruity punch, really floral aftertaste.
Fruit.
That's way more interesting than this.
Okay.
Right, I think that's it unless Liam wants to talk about whatever version of Robinson's fruit squash he's got going on.
Well, what I have here is apple and blackberry flavour. You know, that's about it. It's just that interesting.
I think you mean apple and blackcurrant. But
yeah, blackberry would be quite nice though. But, yeah.
All right. Well, gentlemen, we're here to speak about the Worried Bros.
What shit? Yes. Well, we're going to talk about Warner Brothers Games Studios, and we're going to totally speculate because we have no insider information, which we'd never get from anyone. No insider information about anything from anywhere.
I have no insider information regarding
particularly about Warner Brothers Studios.
Yeah. I have no connection to Warner Brothers Studios, so I can.
But we wouldn't get one from anywhere.
I was like, I can speculate all I want about that. I have no clue about anything there.
Right, I've just been asked for some technical help next door. So if you would like to introduce what's going on with Warner Brothers Studios, I'll be back momentarily. I will be listening.
He will be watching us.
Will you be judging?
Kids,
Yeah, I think he'll be judging.
Kids, don't be rude. Don't make sure you're being nice to everybody. It's like we're watching you. Okay. Anyway, so what is happening? What we're going to talk about is actually two things that came out from Warner Brothers this week, which is the Suicide Squad got pushed to its tentative spring. But technically, they said 2023, but it sounds like it's going to be spring 2023 because they were shooting for the end of 2022. And then we had a big, huge dump in regards to the new Hogwarts game, Hogwarts Legacy, made by Avalanche Games. They showed off a ton of stuff, so we have a lot to talk about for those two things. Probably first, let's just talk about we want to go good or bad, fellas. Good or bad?
Suicide
Squad? On Suicide Squad being delayed in favour of Gotham Knights coming out.
Yeah, I mean that is what I think.
Well, I always thought Gotham Knights was going to be the first thing to come out because it was the first thing we got gameplay for.
Well, it was the first one announced, so it makes sense. But
they weren't though. They both got announced at the same event at the same time.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, they did. They were both announced at DC Fandom in 2020, I think. Yeah. Yeah, they were both.
I thought Suicide Squad I thought Gotham Knights was announced before that, and then they were both shown off at that event. I am going to go look it up right now, so I'm confirming this.
Both were announced. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I'm distinctly uninterested in both games. I'm hoping they're good, but expecting them not to be that interesting, because
I think Suicide Squad will be good because people, it's been since 2015. It'll be 8 years by the time a new Rocksteady game comes out.
Okay, you were right. They were both announced at Fandom. It's just Gotham Knights showed gameplay, whereas Suicide Squad was only a trailer.
Yeah, that's right. The thing with Suicide Squad is apparently they were working on something else before they canned it and then decided to work on Suicide Squad. It's rumored to be a Superman game, apparently, that didn't work out.
I heard that as well.
Yeah,
and read because I can read.
Yeah, so really, when you're looking at Suicide Squad, it's actually had quite a healthy 5, maybe it'll be 6 years by the time the game actually comes out. So it kind of works, but Gotham Knights is the one I'm worried about because I mean, Warner Brothers Montreal hasn't released a game since 2013, and that's just crazy to me.
Well, because they weren't originally working on Suicide Squad, and they kind of switched projects.
First they were working on Suicide Squad, then they worked on a Batman game with Damian Wayne, who's Bruce Wayne's son, as the lead character.
That would be rubbish. Why would evil Robin?
Nobody likes Damian Wayne.
I love Damian Wayne. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that, bro. Damian Wayne, I think, is the most interesting Robin of all the Robins because he actually has a complex where he has a troubled past about killing people, but then has to try to work through that and try to become more of a hero like his father. I think those are interesting elements you can make into a great game. I'm disappointed.
Don't get me wrong. I don't hate Damian Wayne like a lot of people do, but I'm not that strongly on him.
If it weren't for Damian Wayne, the Justice League would have died to Doomsday and Apocalypse War. Which the thing that worries me is the standards of quality across Warner Brothers and DC IP vary massively. The quality of their animated movies is fucking brilliant.
Oh yeah, it's incredible.
The Apocalypse War saga that started over 10 years ago with Flashpoint, and then finished with Apocalypse War not last year, the year before. That's some of the best animated movies that have ever been made. Marvel can't even come close to that. But then the quality of their films, their live-action movies, is atrocious. So for me, it's a coin toss whether or not the latest things, because we haven't seen anything great since Arkham City, in my opinion. Gotham Knights was sorry, what was the one with the bat
Yeah,
tank?
Gotham Knight. I'm sorry, Arkham Knight.
Arkham Knight.
It's all sort of blending together.
The bat tank. Everything but the bat tank was great, but then the bat tank was so shoehorned into that game that every time I got involved with those tank battles, and it was just, this isn't Batman to me. So I'd like to know more about how Gotham Knights is going to play. I'm not a fan of an isometric multiplayer game, particularly if you're playing with randoms.
I don't think you can play with randoms. I think you have to play with somebody.
No, you can play with the computer too.
Well, no. I think when you're playing alone, like usually you'll just be by yourself, and so you won't even have another person with you. They'll just show up for cutscenes and stuff like that. I think that's the way they.
On the specific levels, like in Arkham Knight, where you team up with Catwoman, so there'll be specific ones. But then if that's AI controlled, I won't mind that so much.
Yeah, exactly, just like that.
Yeah, I don't like Jason Todd.
Oh, I do. I hated him in Arkham Knight though. What a waste of that character.
It was. The introduction was quite good of how they handled that, with Batman going insane and seeing what the Joker did to Jason. That was good, but his personal introduction was awful. That giant drill that he was driving.
You know what worries me about Gotham?
Sorry, this has just turned into me shitting on Arkham Knight.
I mean, to be honest, it's weird, and I'm weird very much saying this, but I'm actually more excited for Gotham Knights than I am for Suicide Squad. Now, in my excitement for Gotham Knights, it's like, here's like the next...
I've stubbed my toe.
Yeah,
here's like, I've stood on a nail.
Here's like
somewhere between those.
Here's like the next like here's like the next God of War, because God of War is my favorite game of all time, and like here's Gotham Knights. Like it's not the same level, fellas. It's lower, but at least it's higher than the Suicide Squad. And you know, the one thing that could change my mind about this game, very much so, is going to be that combat, because there's actually going to be two players involved in the combat. I wonder how different it is, and it has to be. I'm assuming it has to be a little more free flowing. It's not as tight because you have multiple players playing at the same time, which I don't know if the rails will work as well in regards to like being connected to people. And I wonder if you can do combos with people. I think the combat is going to make and break this game, basically, is my opinion. And so,
do you know what I think might make or break it, actually? And this is where I'm kind of in agreement with you, but for a different reason. Mm-hmm. Which is, I think the story in this could be way better than the Suicide Squad.
Yes, that was going to be my second point. I think I'm more fascinated by this story than I would be in the Suicide Squad story, especially seeing so much of the Suicide Squad story trailers. And Gotham Knights has barely revealed I mean, I think they've done one story trailer, but it's not a lot.
They've done like two.
Yeah, but they barely told you anything, which I think is to their advantage.
All of the we know is Batman's disappeared.
All we know is Batman is...
That's it.
All we know is Batman's dead, apparently, and the Court of Owls are our enemy, and multiple villains have taken over parts of Gotham. That's all we know. Yeah. That's not a lot.
I mean, that's all you need to know, really, isn't it?
I think
pretty much,
but I think at the same time, I wish there was some kind of nook and cranny in there, something that's a better hook than Batman's dead. You know, like I think that was. I think that's trying.
Me personally, one of my favorite comics is the Court of Owls books. Like, that's enough for me personally. If people know about the Court of Owls, it's like one of the best Batman stories.
But that's the thing. And I think that's a huge difference, is the Court of Owls is not as generalistic known villain like the Riddler, the Joker, the Two-Face, and Mr. Freeze. It's like it's not up there on the pantheon of all of Batman's villains. That the Court of Owls
the
itself.
Thing is,
hold on, I'll let you pop.
Sorry,
no, it's okay.
Yeah, no,
the Court of Owls is not that thing that's going to hook the player and go, oh my god, it's the Court of Owls. Like that's the villain I've always wanted. And I think that's what they're trying to make the hook. But for people like me that haven't experienced as much with the Court of Owls, I'm not as excited. So I just wanted a tiny bit more, something that's going to hook me as a generalistic player. I don't think they have that. But go ahead, Liam.
No, I'm the opposite.
I think that's asking a lot. But I was also going to say, because it isn't set in the same universe as the Arkham games, I don't see why the Joker shouldn't be able to turn up in some way. You know, like that would hook players, I guess.
Just don't be Troy Baker's Joker. Give me Mark Hamill.
My Troy Baker's Joker.
It wasn't. But not minding something isn't the same as thinking something is excellent.
Yeah, he was. He was Joker for Arkham Origins.
Yeah. When I say I don't mind, I'm just being coy here. You know,
sorry. I'm sorry. Because Keith was talking over you, Keith. Jesus. I thought I heard. No, he wasn't in it.
Not here. He's got to do it to someone.
The one thing that might sell me better on this is playable demo.
Yes, this is one I want a demo for.
It's a good idea.
I don't want to see beta to hop into or something like that.
Yeah, I don't want to see some canned walkthrough. Here's how you could play a level, because of all the things you were talking about, Mitch, when it comes to the combat. So how much of the combat is if you've got two people, not you and an AI, two actual people, in one of their arenas taking out people, and then you've got to fight a group of enemies. How much of the control of that are they going to take away so that it doesn't ruin the flow?
Yeah, where you don't accidentally both run into the same person, unless that activates something really cool where like all of a sudden you do a combo like thing where like maybe one sweep kicks underneath, the other one does like a pile driver with the arm or something. Like that would be really cool. But
that's how it worked with Catwoman and Nightwing in the previous game. So I can see how it could work. But is that automated? Mm-hmm. And if it's automated, how much does that then affect your feel of the flow of combat?
I mean, and that's the most important thing about these Arkham games. I mean, I know this is not an Arkham game, but like the style of combat is the feel. Like it just feels so good. And to have, like, that's why in the games, like the boost, the combos, it's all about the combos, because when you lose out on your combo, not only is it you lose out on the rewards of having that combo, you also like feel it doesn't feel good, and you're like, I missed that. And it's unsatisfying. So like, if they can nail that, that's great.
One thing I'm a little bit concerned about is the balancing, because Batman Arkham Origins, I enjoy it. I think it's a pretty good game. But it's rather poorly balanced, especially towards the end. It becomes incredibly easy.
Well, as soon as you get the shock gloves.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I'm worried about is with all of the multiplayer elements in there are they going to be able to balance the game so it's not too easy when you're playing multiplayer and it's not too hard when you're playing.
If you remember the demo, if you remember the
showcase,
the showcase that they did, the enemies that you were fighting had levels above their heads.
Yeah.
So a lot of it, I'm thinking, is going to be level gated. So if you go to this area and you're under leveled, you're going to have your ass handed to you.
Or they could,
which I don't mind personally.
Or they might do something where it's like, hey, like my Robin is, like level 10 and yours is level like, and then you have Batgirl and she's like level 30. They might just auto adjust the enemies to like give a median, being like, okay, well, we're going to give you enemies that are level like
15 or 17.
I was thinking
and then throw in a mixture of like a level 40 somewhere.
I was thinking more from the perspective of like doing certain things by yourself as opposed to with two players. You know what I mean? Like in terms of health pools, like whether like a stealth challenge would be a lot more difficult for one person to handle compared to two. Things like that.
Well, I think no matter what, they said they're going to put you with a computer player. So like, there's always going to be two. So it's
but
going
how
to
good's
be.
the computer player going to be if there is one?
That's my thing. I was going to say it's dependent on the competency of the second player, and it's going to be dependent on, especially in the stealth sections, are they just going to automatically label the person as undetectable if they're in crouch mode, and so like they could pull something where they can stand almost next to an enemy and they're not going to see them, even though they should be able to see them. So it doesn't ruin the flow.
Joel and Ellie style. We've got Ellie running around in front of zombies, and she's just somehow invisible.
Well, that way it doesn't ruin the experience of the player, because you don't want that to happen where it's like, okay, the AI is limited, and so they can only do so much. And so like,
I don't know if there is a way to deal with that, and it's about compartmentalization. And I think I've just one word of the day.
Yeah.
So
is that turning the page, or is that a sizzle?
That's a sizzle. So what you could do is exactly what they did in the team up sections from Arkham Knight, which is basically if you're not playing with another person, you're playing with computer AI, they just ignore the fact that person exists. So they could just be off doing their own thing. So when you were playing with Batman, you'd get through a stealth section, then suddenly Catwoman would be there, or suddenly Nightwing would be there. So there's one way of doing that, which is just completely ignoring the fact that player character who is controlled by the AI is just there in the background doing their own thing. You might get some radio messages or something through saying, I've just taken out some guards, blah, blah, blah.
They might take out like 3 enemies predetermined by whatever.
So it's already pre-programmed in. Yeah. So here's your crit path for that character.
They have the branch of 3 different combinations. Depending on which direction you go, they're going to go in this direction. They're going to take out these 3 enemies and these 3 enemies only, and the rest are yours.
Yeah. Alternatively, they act as like a partner character. So not a controlled character, but a partner. So you can mark people up for them to.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool if you can mark people up. Like I know we haven't seen a lot of the stealth elements of this game, but that would be interesting if you could like mark up enemies with, regardless if you're using computer player or not. Mark them up and be like, hey, I'm gonna take these 3. You take these 3. Like that would be really cool. I do like that.
Yeah. So in the same way that Batman can do the kind of hanging takedown, if you see someone over at the other side of the room, you can tell that character to do that action. So that still means that you're technically in control, but you're not performing the action.
Yep.
So that's how I think
Assassin's Creed. It kind of reminds me of that a little bit.
Yeah, with I can't remember what they were called in Assassin's Creed. The Brotherhood. So that's how that might work. Obviously, as soon as we don't know what the playtesting's been like, obviously, because we have no inside information. Like we don't have any inside information on anything that we talk about.
I was just going to say though that because I've sort of said it before, but I just want to point out that I'm way more excited for Suicide Squad.
Well, we'll get onto that.
Well, we're about to.
Okay.
Calm down.
I thought you might be skipping the Hogwarts, man.
No. We got plenty of time. We got time. Fellas, we've got time.
We've got a whole 45 minutes before I need to go check on my slow roast pork.
Yeah. Plus, technically, we usually wrap up the show in about 20 to 30 minutes from now. So we got time. So
the last point is how the problem that we might have, and we won't know until people actually get their hands on it and then start playing it together, is how easy it might be to cheese some of this by outthinking the AI through working together. And I know that's going to be part of the game, but in the same respect as you can stand next to a dragon's tail and slash at it for 25 minutes to get 6,000 ring stings or whatever it is you get in Elden Ring.
I think for this one it's harder to do.
Is there a way to mechanically break it by playing it 2-player?
I don't think. By the way that the game, if this is the elements, if they're taking the elements from the previous Batman games that have came out from Warner Brothers, I don't see how they could, unless like in the example Liam has presented of like, it all just depends on how powerful the enemies are and what determines that. I think that is the thing that will break the game, is if the essence of, like we were talking about, of like if they don't if like the enemies are grouped up by a certain area and saying like, oh, these areas are 50 plus, but if they do something like what we were talking about, is that they auto adjust the levels of the enemies based off the two players, yes, that could break the game. But I think it's really just depending on the enemies, not necessarily the rest of the elements, because the rest of the elements we know work. Like from like your example, a From Software game always has those type of elements in it, because that's what you get from that kind of game. Like there's when you have a giant open world, like when you have a giant arena style fighting game where the arenas are these intricate buildings. Sometimes you can find a hole in the game where all of a sudden you get like this little corner that you can trap them in, and you can be able to slash your way against them. The Batman games aren't really that, right? It's a little, their gameplay is a little different. It's a different kind of bread and butter. And so like the enemy types.
They probably have a quest log.
But my final question to you fellas. Oh, go ahead. You can say your thing. I was
just going to say, just to wrap up on Gotham Knights. How quickly would you think about purchasing?
Well, that goes to my second question, which we'll add to your question, is out of 10, how hyped are you for this game, or excited or interested about this game? I need to see more. I'm at like a 7 right now. Like I'm genuinely.
Oh, you're on the IGN scale. Okay.
I'm not on the IGN scale. I am genuinely, like 10 would be like an immediate buy. Seven's like I'm willing to buy. I just really want to see more to affirm what I'm thinking, and if not, then it can go back down again. But I'm kind of like at a 7. Like this is a one where it's like, I do have to think about it if I do want to purchase this or not. But I do want to see more. Like I'm not gonna buy it today if I was offered it right now with what I've seen. Like I'd have to wait for like reviews and things like that. Liam, what do you think? Where are you at?
Personally, if this game was coming out in May, where nothing seems to really be popping up at the minute, I would probably buy it day one and be pretty happy about it.
Yeah,
But the fact it's coming out in October, it's like, oh boy. Yeah, you're going to struggle a bit, because I know I'm going to get Modern Warfare 2, and I know I'm going to get like Hogwarts Legacy, and I know I'm going to get a bunch of other games. This one may fall by the wayside.
We'll talk about it. They didn't put a month, and I was a little shocked by that. So, like,
but I mean,
commitment is able to move.
It like, even regardless if that game doesn't make it, like the point still stands. Like,
I totally don't disagree with you.
That's I'll just use that as an example.
For sure. But what's a 10 0 to 10 scale? Where are you at? What's your number? Tell me what's your number.
Like I said, if it was May, it would probably be like a 8.2 on the IGN scale. But in October, it's probably a 6, to be honest. Even though I would eventually.
Okay. Keith, where you at?
I'm a 5.
765. 765 309.
So I'm just flat across the board on this. There's my principled thing about not buying video games day one, because the video games industry has trained us not to buy games day one.
Well, Keith, if I bought it and you bought it, would we play together?
With time difference and your work being so busy, probably not. And that would be the other thing. Is like, do I have someone to play this with? Yeah. Because I think it's designed that way to get the most enjoyment out of it.
Mrs. McWomble could kick ass as Batgirl.
Oh, she kicks ass. So you should see her on Streets of Rage 4. But yeah, I don't know if this is this couch co-op. Have they even confirmed that?
I do
probably not, right? Yeah,
probably not, because
likely.
Yeah, because you have to have like an online account, probably.
Yeah.
So you could play.
I don't want to have to set up another bloody online account for Warner Brothers.
Well, Keith, what you could do is you could play it on your PC.
Now you've said that. I'm sorry, Mish. I'm down to a 4. I don't want to have to set up a bloody online account with Warner Brothers.
I was gonna say you could set it up with your wife on your Xbox, and then you can play it on your PC from your room. I guess maybe that's a Burkhoff setup. Burkhoff can play it on his PC in his office, and then his wife can play it on the Xbox on the TV, and then they can just
shout at one another across the house.
Shout at each other from across the house, going,
"No, you take that guy! I said that."
Your left or my left? I can't even see you. I don't know which left.
Yeah. So right. Yeah. So yeah, I'm flat on this game, honestly. Talking about something something that could create a flat Earth, Superman. That's a very tenuous link.
Do what you can. You gotta do what you can. You got for the clicks, man. For the clicks.
At least you tried.
Yeah. So we'll move on to Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League.
God, it's such a long title.
Should I go first? Because I feel like I'm the only one that's very positive on this one.
I want to like it.
I want to like it too. I love Rocksteady.
There's nothing there's literally nothing that I've seen that makes me like it more than my level of indifference towards it. I don't dislike anything about it. Let's put it that way. I'm not here to tell you that it looks shit and I'm never going to play it and the gameplay looks awful and how can the Suicide Squad possibly kill the Justice League when they don't have any superpowers? All that kind of bollocks. I just don't think that anything that they showed inspires me to want to play it in any way.
I'm just so meh. Go ahead.
I've got to say, like,
convince me.
When this game got announced, I rolled my eyes into the back of my head, thinking, "Oh, for fuck's sake!"
Were you King Shark?
No, I'll be Harley Quinn, of course. Everybody's gonna be fighting over playing as Harley Quinn, right? Surely.
Well, and this is you missed the anatomical joke there. Sorry, because sharks can roll their eyes.
Can they?
Yeah, they can actually roll their eyes backwards, which is why when sharks attack, they roll their eyes backwards, so you don't see the white of their eyes, you see black.
So not only can they eat people, but they can also be sarcastic about it.
Yes. Sharks have actually very good eyesight, particularly brilliant eyesight, in fact. So any evangelical Christians out there who want to say that God created us in a perfect image and our eyes are brilliant, our eyes are actually shit. Sharks' eyes are so much better.
Yeah, God forgot to put the eyes of sharks in our heads.
Yeah, so when we get in a fight, we can't roll them backwards to protect them from injury. Sharks also have glands in their eyes that extrude silver down the back of their retinas to amplify the light going into their eyes in low light conditions, so they can actually see much, much better in low light conditions than we ever possibly can do.
Oh, speaking of like making things in his image, you know what else God didn't give us that
fins
animals have? Hummingbirds.
Regrowing teeth.
No, I'm sorry, not hummingbirds. Woodpeckers can stick their tongues into the back of their heads and wrap it around their brains to make it a
shock absorber.
A shock absorber, so they can peck their heads against a wood plank for multiple minutes. Whereas where people play football and our brains don't have something to protect ourselves, we have helmets and they're not good enough. So much for Spain us in perfect image.
Welcome to the animal biology section of this show. I've got more. Would anyone want to know why giraffes don't have a stroke when they bend down to drink? And that's not the start of a joke. Sorry, Liam, please carry on.
Okay. I was going to say, one of the things I don't like about this game is it's not Suicide Squad. Not Suicide Squad I like. And James Gunn seems to be the only person that seems to understand what Suicide Squad is. But other than that, I think the game looks like a ton of fun. Like, I just think the fact that they're beating the Justice League, they seem to be leaning into that. It's such an absurd concept, and they're like, oh yeah, how are these four losers going to take on the Justice League? But I am here for that. I want to find out exactly how, and it looks like a ton of fun. And it reminds me of one of my favourite games of the past few years, Sunset Overdrive. Like, it just gives me those vibes, and I just look at the trailer and I think, man, I really want to play the hell out of that.
I do like the fact that it's got an element of silliness that seems to be absent from lots of games at the moment, unless outside of indie games or in your AAA games industry, everything's got to be quite serious.
Quite the turnaround from the Batman games, because they were all quite serious, really.
Yeah. So this is going completely the opposite direction. Mitch, you and I previously discussed that the person doing Harley Quinn was doing a bad Harley Quinn impersonation rather than doing Harley Quinn.
Not only that, we also thought the comedy was pretty bad.
Yeah,
it's not.
Oh,
funny.
I thought it was funny.
I think the comedy's awful. Like here's the. I don't know how this happened, but like the last two games that are like meant to be, like, I hate when people say meant to be. Anyway, so like the last two properties that came off of comedy type films, that's the Suicide Squad and that is the Guardians of the Galaxy, which are actually funny. I think they're quite funny films. Their games are not funny. Like that's how bad.
It's James Gunn's writing them.
But like that's and to each their own. I know comedy is hard.
Have you played the Guardians of the Galaxy?
I've seen some. I watched a lot of cutscenes of it to try to see. Okay, was it just the trailers? And I didn't find it very funny.
Okay, so it's better when you play it.
Okay. Well, I do have to buy Game Pass again so I can play Guardians. Like it's on my list.
Definitely. I would absolutely recommend you play it.
Okay.
I previously not evangelized. That's too strong a word. Promoted how good it was on a few shows ago when I just finished it. It is way better than the trailers showed. The comedy is better than the trailers showed. The interaction between the characters on a personal level is better than the trailer showed. It does end up suffering from repetition in fights. So previously I said that the characters would quip at one another if they're doing something wrong or right. Or
you were getting to the same quips over and over again?
Over and over. So,
well, I guess for me, the tricky part is, even though I enjoy the film Suicide Squad and Guardians, I'm not a fan of them. I don't really like them. Like I personally
did not like Suicide Squad. I did not like it. It's a distinctly average film.
What the new one that just came out?
Yes,
I love that film. I really enjoyed it.
The first one was bad. This one, in my opinion, is average. I think the reason people...
Yeah, I think this new one is... I think it's a little bit above average, but it's not like way above average. It is night and day difference between the last Suicide Squad movie. But I still would say like I would put it the same as what I thought of Guardians.
Never.
Because I ding Guardians automatically because it's following like every freaking Marvel formula every single time, which I get that's what we have to deal with all the time. But like I do find some of the comedy good.
The first Guardians of the Galaxy is probably my favorite Marvel film in general.
It's not my favorite.
I love that film. I've seen it
Civil War.
10 times.
I think the Winter Soldier is its best.
Civil War's good too. I like Civil War.
I like the Winter Soldier is the best film because it's
a spy movie with action,
exactly. Yeah. And that's what I loved about it. It like didn't have to follow no Marvel formula. It was just a really good spy movie with action in it. And it featured superheroes. And I love that. That's why I love the Batman so freaking much. It's a detective movie that Batman just happens to be in, and it works just fine like that. And I like it.
Right. So back onto the Suicide Squad, the game. I think we can all agree that Liam is wrong in liking it. And we'll wait and see. This is another one. It's a kind of...
I guess. Sorry. Final.
Sorry. I just want to say this kind of is a put up or shut up moment for Rocksteady as well. If you can't deliver on this and start getting some Arkham City level reviews across the board on this, I don't know whether they're actually in a bit of trouble.
I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to make a prediction. I can't make this prediction for Gotham Knights because I just don't trust it. Even though I hope it's really good, I it's like, yeah, this game's a mess, and I'm not gonna try to make any predictions. But Suicide Squad, I think, is going to be a high-rated game. I think it's going to be like above 85. I would say.
I would not. If I was to predict, I won't disagree with you, Liam, and here's why. Which I disagree with in a sense, Keith in this way, that I do not think that what I've seen, the gameplay looks good. That I will admit. But for a game like
no one wants to be Captain Boomerang.
But that's what I was about to say. That's what I was about to say. So that was the thing I was gonna say before you were like, you needed to finish your thing, which is good. And I said, the thing that's holding me back on this thing, and the reason why Suicide Squad to me is so uninteresting, is because half of these characters, no one fucking knows if we didn't have the Suicide Squad movies except for comic fans. And I get it. And I totally get it. You want to introduce these people? Great. You want to use Harley Quinn as the muse to try to get people intrigued to like do this team up? Great. But the other three are just so uninteresting. Like, and from what I've seen in the films, I'm so uninterested, especially Captain Boomerang. Even though I know he's a main villain for the Flash. And I know that, and I understand that, and there could be a really interesting like play with things. I think Suicide Squad would have been, you know what I think they should have done? I think they should have not done the Suicide Squad. I think they should have taken like the major villains from the Justice League and pop them together and say, we got to kill our greatest rivals. So like the Joker would be in this game. Wonder Woman's greatest villain, Cheetah, would be in this game. For Superman, we would have Lex Luthor in this game. And then for the Flash, we would have Captain Boomerang, because that's or Reverse Flash, one of the two. But I think it would have been way more interesting to put like I would have
that would be too hard of a game to make.
I get it, but like that's a more interesting premise to me, because not only that, it hooks from all the generalistic while adding new elements. And I
think you and I are going to disagree on that one, because I do like the fact that the Suicide Squad is normally a bunch of complete and total fuck ups.
Well, if they did the Suicide Squad, what would have been way better, like if they're doing the Suicide Squad now, what'd be more interesting is like build the Rogues Gallery a little more to add more people, and then if you die in the game, Amanda Waller blows your brain up. And it's like permadeath. And that's not an option.
Mitch, that is precisely the problem I had with the game when it first got announced. I was like, why are there only 4 members in the Suicide Squad?
And there's no fear of death.
Kill a bunch of them off. Yeah, exactly. But now that I've seen the game, I kind of get what it's going for. That it's just this silly sort of comedy romp. You know, I thought when I was watching it, when I was watching one of the newest trailers, I thought, well, Harley Quinn's obviously going to be awesome. I love Harley Quinn. Captain Boomerang is selling me, though, because that guy just seems hilarious. And then King Shark was one of the best parts of the recent Suicide Squad film. Like, maybe even Keith could agree with that. He was just so...
I liked Polka Dot Man more.
Horrible. I mean, I like Polka Dot Man, but I'm saying King Shark, you can see where they could find humour and fun with that character.
But
I'm the only one
that's the thing is like... That's the thing that's throwing me off, though. Like, they're picking them because of humor, not because they would make a cool character.
Well, I think they would. Like, and from the trailers, it looks like they're all quite interesting.
The characterization of them as individuals outside of Harley Quinn does kind of match what you see in the comics and the cartoons. And again, this is just a personal thing. If you're going to do a Suicide Squad movie, there has to be some kind of jeopardy for the squad outside of the mission that they're on, because that's the whole point. And I'm confused that there isn't.
Yeah. Well, they can't
Waller is threatening them, but if Amanda Waller were to kill them off, they can't complete the mission, and there's no one else to send. So I'm confused as to.
I think there's something they showed in the trailer, though.
Unless it's going to be the DLC packs that WB want to send you with. Your character died. Well, you can have.
Wow.
I don't know who else would they bring in. Killer Frost. You can have Killer Frost to buy in and it will only cost you $17.99 to pay for her now, or you can wait for the first DLC to drop, along with 3 other unknown characters for $24.99.
Well,
they'd just be like carbon copies of the characters that they killed off, like instead of Deadshot, have Idris Elba from the newest film.
Well, I think we saw in the trailer that like you might be hunting people that Waller, like other Suicide Squad members that like ran away. Because isn't there that sequence at the end of the trailer when she's shocking some guy and he's already dead because you killed him, and then they're like, shock him again, he's running away, and they're like laughing about it. But then it's like, well, is it the implant in their brain? You just blow the brain up? Like, why are we shocking them? Like, are we like that's where, like, it just seems so. It's like, if you're gonna go into Suicide Squad, go the Suicide Squad route and not try to like finagle it around to make it work, to fit in, to make sure it plays the game you want to play. If that's what you want, if you want to make it the game you want to play, then don't make it Suicide Squad, make it something else. And I think you could still make it interesting as like a team group up and just not have Amanda Waller in the background. Like and then it could still be a certain game where all these fuck ups like get together and all of a sudden they figure out, we got to kill the Justice League because I would still want to go back to my place and be with my PewDiePie and like my Cutie Pie and Mr. J.
Do you want to be with a famous YouTuber?
I want to be with my Mr. J. So like I need to go kill Batman.
Well, it would make more sense. We haven't been shown the setup, so we know that Brainiac is in it, and we know that somehow Brainiac is
controlling the
brainwashed the Justice League. So we don't know if it's actually a Suicide Squad where people have got bombs in their necks, or if Amanda Waller has just convinced these villains to try and stop the Justice League from destroying the world.
It'd be an interesting premise is if it was their fault. Like, they're the ones that caused Brainiac to be able to corner the Justice League, and they felt bad. They're like, now we kind of fucked up the world, so we might as well go fix it. And then Amanda Waller's like, well, you need backup.
And it kind of seemed like they were sending them there because they were the only people they could get their hands on at that time.
Maybe and everybody else kill the rest of the villains off or something, and there's no villains left.
And there was also something else in there where it seemed that Wonder Woman wasn't beholden to Brainiac or something, and all the other characters were, which is interesting.
Maybe they freed her. Maybe that's after post like freeing her from Brainiac's cause, because like maybe you don't really kill the Justice League. Like the mission is to kill, but they figure out how to not kill them and like just free them.
I remember somebody saying something to do with the law because she's part god. She can't be, controlled by Brainiac.
In one of the trailers, she had red eyes or the purple eyes. So like I thought she was controlled at least for part of it.
I don't know. I watched a bunch of people analysing the trailer.
Well, let's see, because we don't know. All we're doing here is speculating. And
because they haven't shown us anything.
Grab a wand, speculatum. Yes. Who wants to talk about
speculatus?
Well, if you thought I was evangelizing that last game hard, just you wait.
Oh, go ahead.
Well,
start
Liam,
evangelizing.
Before I start shitting on you for being a trans-hating scumbag, because apparently only trans-hating people will buy this video game.
They've made it very clear J.K. Rowling has nothing to do with the development and the story of this game. They've made it abundantly clear.
Isn't it disappointing that they've had to go so far out of their way to distance themselves from
the creator of
the
what they're making? Wow. WoW has someone fallen from grace harder in like a community than J.K. Rowling in the background. It's not even like open public thing where it's like on the news, all over the news of being like J.K. Rowling, like, and it's like all this has been like very much behind the scenes and just spread word of mouth to all fans, and fans have just been like, no.
Agree or disagree with what she said on trans issues. I don't necessarily think that people posting her address online and some of the other horrible shit that they're doing in any way,
I think
equalizes the pain that I think, or the hurt that they feel that she has caused to them.
Yeah. And they keep saying things that she didn't say, which gets on my nerves.
Oh, you mean people online have made up shit?
Well, yes, it goes with the territory.
Yeah,
I heard a rumor that J.K. Rowling is actually part of the Lizard Overlord V conspiracy, along with the members of the royal family. So, as long as we're making up shit, let's make up some really fun stuff.
Oh, is she part of the deep state that takes children's blood and puts it into the arms of the democratic leaders to make themselves live forever?
Yeah, and if you put a postage stamp of the Queen, as our postage stamps had the head of the Queen on, if you put that upside down, you can get arrested.
God, this is all not true, people. Just saying. What we're saying is all not true. Just make it abundantly clear. No, I totally agree with you both that, like, in the premise of, you know, do I absolutely disagree with what she has to say? Absolutely. As being part of the LGBTQ plus community, like, I completely disagree with what she has to say. Do I think that the people putting up her addresses and making up things that she did not say, like, I'm definitely not okay with that. I am more disappointed in the fact that I'm more than willing to, if someone wants to better themselves, and that's the same for me. Like, we all make mistakes in regards to, it's because of our understanding of the world and where we come from. Like, I come from the Midwest, and there are things that I learn because I am not exposed to certain elements. Like, I'm not exposed to, like, okay, honestly, grew up in a town full of a bunch of white people. I'm being frank. There were not very many black people where I grew up. There was not very many Island Pacificers, Asian, any other culture just in general. So I had to learn a lot. And what is that the point is when you find out what you're doing is not appropriate and not okay because it is hurtful to another group of people or to another person, is that you say, okay, I'm so sorry that I did that. I understand. I want to learn. And then you do better. And the fact that what makes me feel frustrated about J.K. Rowling just in general with the situation is she has not learned and not have done better. She doubles down. And if you want to double down,
she believes she's right.
Right. And if you want to double down on what you think is right, that is your opinion. But I completely hold on. I just want to finish real quick. I completely disagree with. I will completely disagree with what she thinks is right, and I think it's wrong, and I will just not support that. And that's my prerogative.
Yeah. The one thing that I don't like about this situation, and then we'll actually talk about the game and allow Liam to talk about how excited he is for Magic, is the worrying trend in modern society is more and more about rightness rather than understanding.
Yes.
So my view of the world is right and yours is wrong. Not, can you try and tell me why you have a different view of the world than me? And I think with more empathy and understanding, the world would be a better place. And that's enough of me being a hippie, and I'm going to get back to being an angry middle-aged man again.
Just to hop in to just like kind of twist it with, not twist it, but like piggyback off of you for a quick second. Well, I'll go to Liam after, which is, you know, I'm all for understand like this type of. It's a very weird situation we're in as a society where, you know, someone may say something where yes, it is extremely inappropriate. And I think it's inappropriate and wish they had a better understanding. And I'm all for the second chance for that person to do better. Now, it's something like sexual assault that is not okay. That is just completely not something I am going to say that you can go away and you can do better in the future. But clearly that is a line everyone should know that is not crossable. That is not okay.
Well, no, you can earn $230 million from doing that. Anyway, everyone should be out doing it.
Anyway, what I'm really trying to say is just more like the things that people say and coming from a different place, I am all for them going, learning, and then forgiving if when they learn to understand, and then they do better from coming from that better place. So that's where I stand just in general, and I am all not for just automatically being like, oh, this person is horrible, they should never blah 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 blah. It's no, I'm disappointed that they said something like this. I would love for them to go talk to somebody to try to get it figured out, and then if they come back and they're better for it, that's amazing, and I will still support them because we all learn, and that's what's important.
I don't know if either of you are familiar with coaching. Not coaching as in sports coaching, but coaching as in the approach to working with people in a corporate environment.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
So I've trained in coaching. I've done some coaching. The important thing they tell you when you start training in coaching is the person you're coaching has to want to be coached, and they have to know that they're being coached at the time. Otherwise, it won't work.
It's almost like being hypnotized. You want to be hypnotized.
Yeah, you have to. You can't just be involuntarily hypnotized. You have to agree to have it done. Because our brains don't want to be controlled by anyone else, surprisingly. So in this situation, I think that J.K. Rowling has taken a stance, and she will not remove herself from that stance. And I think this is the one thing that is poisoning both the game, because it is,
even though although there will be to do with it,
even though she's got nothing to do with it, but also her chance of any form of people trying to understand what she's saying, and also how what she has said has come to cause the situation that she's experiencing. Because it's easier just to dig your heels in and say, I believe I am right, than I am willing to try and understand why you think I'm wrong.
Yeah, well, the way that...
But anyway, Wavy sticks around.
Yeah. I would say
Expelliarmus and all that shit.
The way that they've gone after her, I think people need to be a little bit more open to the idea of why she would dig her heels in if she is wrong on the issue. I don't think shouting abuse at people is very helpful to changing their minds.
Well, it won't. It will just reinforce their opinion that...
Yeah, I mean, obviously they'll feel that you're in the wrong because you're horrible to me. And, you know...
basically what you're describing is how I feel about all of you on Discord. So I diffuse tense situations with comedy. That's what I do. So Liam, you want to wave a stick around, make potions.
Okay.
You want to...
I have a wand back there.
You want to pet magical creatures, which is it kind of like petting dogs in games? Because if it is, because at the moment, Ghostwire Tokyo Game of the Year, you can pet and feed dogs.
It might be the only way we can get Evan to play this. So I'm gonna say yeah.
Well, you can also run it too.
Yeah, Evan went to Harry Potter World and owns his own wand, so I think he might be all in on this one.
Yeah, probably.
So Liam, please extol the virtues of this game, if not the virtues of the woman who came up with the IP.
I've said this, for me personally, that this is like very personal, because when I was a kid and I used to play the old Harry Potter games on PC, I loved the Chamber of Secrets. That game was fun back in the day. Aye, bitch.
Love Chamber of Secrets. It was great.
I remember playing that when I had the chicken pox when I was a kid. And I was like, yeah, this is one of the best Christmases ever. But like when you're a kid and you're like getting so immersed into the books and the films, and you know, I was a huge Harry Potter fan. I mean, I still am, but this game is like something I dreamt up in my brain when I was younger, and it's done nothing to hinder my excitement for it since that first trailer, and I just cannot wait to play it.
I was in my 20s when that film came out.
In that world, which is horrified to think about. But yeah, it's just a dream game, and that's the only way I can put it, because I'm so impressed by everything that they showed. You know, from the gameplay. I mean, there are a few concerns, but I think at the end of the day, for me, even if everything doesn't quite go to plan, I'll still be very happy to play it.
Yeah, like truly, it's a solid game. Like it looks really solid. I think they have a lot of cool elements in the game that I think it seemed as if like this is the first time I've seen the book come to life, which has been great. Um,
Mm.
I and it's hard. Like we just talked about J.K. Rowling, and you know that itself is this umbrella that has shadowed this game, unfortunately, for a lot of people, including myself, because we have the things that she has said, but then we also have, the Fantastic Beasts movies have been not that great, and it's really kind of dampered. And we have another film coming out next month, which
this one's got Mads Mikkelsen.
Well, because Johnny Depp got fired.
Yeah,
because of the whole
allegedly beating up his wife.
Yeah, but then Amber Heard can still work and be in Aquaman 2, which is
even though she's a crazy woman.
I'm not
allegedly.
I'm not gonna.
Even though you can see some of it on camera.
From the court case, it seems as if both are in the wrong. So I felt like both deserve similar punishment, especially from the same studio. Like I'm so confused, but I can understand why they would. But I can understand from their perspective why they maybe defend her in this case. But anyway,
I think it's a shame that it has to be so public and everybody has to leave.
Yeah, it didn't have to be
things that should be private.
Yes, I think I agree with that as well. Yeah. But anyway,
we're getting into a whole. If we were a popular podcast, I don't know if we'd have liable lawyers coming after us for random stuff.
Anyway, to get to where I was talking about, to basically like. There's just a lot of umbrella-ness on this game that has dampened my excitement. Just excitement about Harry Potter in general. And so maybe this is the game that will bring that back, like bring back the joy of what Harry Potter was to me and what Harry Potter can be to me. I think the combat looks great. I was very nervous about how wand combat would be, and I'm pretty impressed of what they are pulling off for it. And the only hiccup for me is like I am not a big fan of the way that the person's like doing like dance moves from Fortnite to like make their wand move. Like I saw one time they like took their leg and swung it back behind themselves to like do a magic pose like this or something. And I was like, okay, we don't need to get that fancy dancy to like do some spells. Like if you watch the films, it's basically like you're waving the wand and it's all about the wrist movement, the way you're not the putting your hand up here and like making sure your leg's behind your other leg. It's just a little too fancy for me.
It's not fencing.
Yes,
but they must be. They must be like, the industry needs more animators, and we've got a bunch. But how are we going to hold? You need to over-animate everything.
Yeah, and I wonder if maybe they're like, it helps the player distinguish between spells a little better compared to like, because if you're just doing wrist movement, it's really hard to see unless you're in first person to like really tell what the wrist is doing at the time, because this is a third person game. But I do like how they're combining all the elements of Harry Potter is pretty brilliant. I mean, I love that they use the mandrakes. That's like a stunning item, which is really great, which is like pulling from the books and the source material. And I really like that. It is cool that you can expand beyond the Harry Potter castle, but then the castle is its own evolving element that you can find secret passageways and all that kind of stuff. And I love that. And I think it also helps them in the gameplay department. Like they can cut off certain areas because like, the castle's ever evolving and you haven't found the secret to unlocking that area yet, because it's you'll find out in this history book that there's a secret little, brick you got to tap a certain way. And then all of a sudden this magic door opens that leads you to another room. Like, I think there's a lot of amazing things they can really do with this. And I'm genuinely impressed. And I think the one element that's going to be the iffy part is, combining the schoolwork with with this overarching story about these goblins and seeing how that all comes together, because you're just a student. And it's almost as if, like, I get you have to kind of have like a plot point story thing. I kind of wished it more involved something about the school than with just this outside force coming in. And then maybe the sequel is you're in an open, like you're out into the world, and then the goblins come into play or something like that, where, you know, mixing the two, I think and I guess maybe that's what they're going for. Sorry, I'm kind of thinking at the same time, which is, you know, I don't want to be exactly like Harry Potter, where I'm Harry dealing with real world issues while I'm trying to learn in school. I think keeping it in confines of the school would be way more interesting, of like your issue for the player is something to do with the school rather than an outside force coming in, if that makes sense. I mean, you can, yeah. But yeah, I'm excited. It seems good.
And the one thing that concerned, well, there's a few things that concern me because I've got to be the negative one on here. We can't all be happy all the time. So one was the combat. So you were saying that you found the combat interesting. I thought it reminded me of Assassin's Creed, in that enemies will, the early ones where they all wait to die.
Oh no, because I thought that at first, but then you have to they will shoot you with spells and you have to use defensive charms. So it may look like that because you're waving wands. I think that's the hard part to imagine it being like, okay, well, I don't see it that way at all, actually, because I think of the way they said you have to use defensive charms makes me think there actually will be offensive, and you just have to be very smart and strategic about what spell to use to counter, because they also said if you hit the same spell back at them, it cancels out the spell. So I think there is strategy. It seems like there's strategy to it. That's all.
Yeah, it just looked a bit stilted.
I could see that. Yeah, it was very much not mobility. It was very much of stand here and do your spells.
Yeah. So do you know? This is going to sound so stupid.
Like MMORPG style. Yeah. It's like World of Warcraft. You stand there, you click the button, and they'll just do their thing.
Yeah. So it just made me think when the character whomsoever was standing in a courtyard and they were fighting, I think it was 3 or 4 wizards. Why didn't one of the wizards just run up and punch them in the face?
But they would use a spell on you before you get to your face, I guess.
But if you're fighting the other two and they're taking up your attention anyway, that's just how my brain works.
I mean, Hermione did punch.
I like that.
Hermione did punch Malfoy in the face in the movie, so that's a logical reason. I
mean, there was stuff in the last book as well where they'd actually remember to use physical force against people they were fighting instead of
because you got so close to them, you might as well just kick them in the nuts and then do your spell against them because they're stunned.
I really like that idea. I would love it if something like that was in the game.
Oh, that would be hilarious. Your ultimate move is a stun kick to the nuts.
So and the other thing, there are elements of this that I think is just going to be a time sink. So your bestiary, you can save all these animals from people poaching them for no apparent reason, and then you just keep them yourself.
Well, at the school, because the school will take care of them.
Your own personal zoo. So, and then looking after them. Let me get through my list of busy work.
No, I stopped. I had to think about what I was going to say. So go ahead.
So I think there is going to be. I can't see how that necessarily links through to gameplay. I can see how making potions and learning new spells and classes and things like that will link through to gameplay, because you can take a potion, it might make you invisible or impervious to certain forms of damage or all that kind of stuff.
Can I tell you one creature I did see on that list where I see would apply to gameplay really quick? They had the so if you haven't seen the Fantastic Beasts movie, there was a creature in there. It looked like a duck mouse, a duck.
Yeah.
I forgot what it's called. Yeah, but what it does is
the Niffler.
Yeah, the Niffler. What it does is they're known for stealing treasure. So I have a feeling they would either lead you to treasure or steal items off enemies. I that's where I would see a beast helping you in gameplay. But keep going.
I think you already mentioned the Mandrake as well.
But that's made in herbology, so it's not necessarily a creature.
I suppose.
Yeah. So, and the thing that worried me was when you're in. They showed the shot of you being in the room of requirement, and you were crafting something. It said ready in 27 minutes. Hopefully, that's in-game time and not real-world time.
Oh, I'm guessing real. I think it's real time.
I think it's in game.
But they did say no microtransactions. Keith.
Yeah,
they came out and said no microtransactions.
Oh, well done.
I get the feeling.
Don't try and get me to applaud you for not putting shitty microtransactions into a game.
Well, I think it scared. I think it scared people with you when it said 27 minutes, and they're like, "Oh no, they're going to charge us a microtransaction to have it instantly done."
I actually.
Sorry, Liam. Just let me finish off ranting about stuff because let me get it off my chest, and then you can try and convince me that I'm going to love it. So I didn't actually think that. Because I didn't think they would introduce mobile-style game mechanics into this product. What it did make me think of, please let this be in-game time and not real-world time. So if you've got an accelerated day-night cycle, 27 minutes might be 10 minutes in game time. But if it's actually 27 minutes, you've got to go away and then remember to come back and pick this up. You could be going off and doing something else. And
I bet it gives you a notification.
Yeah, suddenly an owl swoops in and says, your potion is ready.
Oh, no, they probably just go, oh, I wonder if my potion's ready.
Yeah, but I don't know, it just seems...
Or maybe in every... into the room of requirement often enough that you, by the time you go back, there's already... You're like, oh, my thing's done. I don't know, how special the item is that you're using for the room of requirement. It might be, a super item, and it requires 27 minutes because, hey, it's a super item. We don't want to give it to you right away. I don't know.
Yeah, I just... The thing that I'm concerned about is... Who are you? Come on. I'm not Matt. And you're not me. So now we've realised those obvious anatomical differences. When I was watching it, I thought this could be a lot of fun. It could also be a significant busy work simulator.
Well, I was going to say that I have it on pretty good authority that not just this game, but all of the games we've been talking about today originally had microtransactions in them, but they all got removed after a certain game came out and the response wasn't very good. Marvel's Avengers, and then Cyberpunk. Apparently it was sort of like a thing for Warner Brothers games in general that they were going to sort of shoehorn in microtransactions into.
Well, if you look what they did with Shadow of War, and then
exactly,
They learned their lesson then.
Well, they kind of did because they realised nobody was playing their game anymore. So they removed all of them, and then were wondering why is nobody coming back to the game.
Well, it's worse that the microtransaction is used because you have to, grind to get your level high enough, and they're like, "Oh, we'll just let you level up enough when we pay us $20." What the hell?
It was a Ubisoft style single player microtransactions. Yeah, everybody loves those.
What level boosters? And XP boosters.
Yeah.
I get your concerns, Keith, and I'm in, but I'm genuinely shocked of how good I thought it looked.
I really like the world setting.
Yeah, the ambition and everything that they're going for seems to work out so far. I think this is the one where I was the most speculative about and being like, okay, what kind of game is this really going to be? And it's genuinely everything I thought it was going to be plus extra. So my expectation was overblown for how good this game looks at the moment. Yes, there's some elements that I'm nervous about. Yeah. But is that enough to make me say I'm not going to buy it? Probably not, because it's looking really good.
It is a good question, though, Mitch. Is sometimes games are too big, and is this game too big? Is there too much to do? Is there too much going on?
That's what I'm curious about as well.
What's a problem for me, but for other people, it might be a problem.
So allegedly, or Matt Carl mentioned on GameFace that the instruction has come down from Warner Brothers on high that this game will come out this year. So
I heard that too.
How much of a buggy mess do we think it's going to be at launch?
I don't know.
So huge open world, massive amount of stuff to do. The potential for it to be not cyberpunk level mess, but there could be some interesting open world bugs going on, which I'm hoping it doesn't get the level of meme that Mass Effect Andromeda did if it launches in a similar state.
Well, here's the thing. It's a risk type assessment, because instantly when something is labeled as is going to be an open world game, the chances of bugs increase automatically. If it's a single player game, if going the less chance likeliness is less. There is still a chance to have bugs in a single player game. There's still a chance to have bugs in an open world game, but there's just more variables in an open world game. With that being said, what looks like they showed off seems to be pretty far in development based off what they showed. I know nothing. I have no insider knowledge about what's happening right there with the game, but for what I see from my eyes, it looks pretty far. And a lot of the elements seem to be there. So my thought is, because they did push this back, because it was supposed to come out earlier this year, and then they pushed it back. My thought is maybe that it is all for, the polishing, the bug fixing, all that kind of stuff to make sure that it's ready to go. That I'm not as worried about it if it hits its date. You also didn't notice that they didn't commit to a certain month, and I think that's really important.
Was it just holiday?
It was
2022?
just holiday, exactly. So I think that gives them some buffer room to be able to add a month or two if they need to in the holiday, and put it out in December if they have to, or put it in November, or if they wanted to put it out in September and they need to move it to October. It gives them that flexibility, because a lot can happen in a month. So I think they've given themselves a really good opportunity where I'm not as nervous about that. And even if so, they showed off one bug on their Twitter handle, and to be honest, it's quite hilarious, and it matches the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, where
the floating centaur.
Yeah, the floating centaur could come into play if a wrong spell was accidentally used or make someone go wacky and crazy. I think that's where a bug is actually slightly forgiving in that type of bug that appeared. It would be a little more forgiving, because you could totally imagine a creature doing that, especially if you messed up your spell. It's kind of one of those things. With that being said, I think I'm not as worried about that.
One thing I feel like a lot of the reason they just said holiday is because they're sort of working around the release date of Gotham Knights, which is the game they're not very comfortable, with whether it will release and be a quality game. And I think Avalanche Software have done a lot of things to prove that they should be trusted, in terms of releasing a quality game.
Well, they did the Just Cause series, right?
No. That is Avalanche Studios, and the people that developed this game is Avalanche Software, which is very confusing. They're the people that made the Disney Infinity games and Cars 3. Yeah.
Okay. Never mind then. I was going to say they probably have
experience. This is a
Toy Story 3 as well.
Guerrilla Games level of shift.
Yes, this is a big move for them.
So I'm hoping it pays off for them in the same way that Horizon Zero Dawn paid off for Guerrilla Games. I would like this to be good. I will play it at some point. Am I going to buy it day one? Absolutely not.
I think this game could be good, and it doesn't have to be great, but if it's great, I think it's going to go over the moon in regards to people's reviews and expectations and scores. But I think as long as it's just good, I think people will be very happy with this game. Very happy.
A little known fact, actually, is that before this game, the studio actually was closed down by Disney, and it was resurrected this primarily to make this game.
Well, it's good that they're making their own passion project, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because as much as passion projects in the video games industry can be quite dangerous, because fancy them, oh, you're working on your passion project, so please do 150-hour week so that I can have it when I think I deserve it because I'm paying you for it, in which you deserve nothing. Liam, no, you're massively excited for this. I'm guessing you're going to be waiting and seeing, but expectantly.
I'm not sure because I'm going to buy it, even if it's not very good.
So 0 to 10 scale, where are you at? Where are you at on the 0 to 10 scale?
I'm a 10. This is my most, even before Horizon came out, this was the game I was most excited for this year. Probably.
Is it on your fantasy league?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
I think it might be. Mitch, 0 to 10.
I'm like a 9, solid 9. Like I basically I will buy it. Like I'm going to buy it. I
out of curiosity, if anything.
I'd have very yes. I mean, I'll still wait for review scores because that's just how I do to just make sure of and I don't.
Best way to be.
And I guess in a sense, I don't look at the score. I read their reviews because that's what you should really do, people. Because then you can know actually what the game is instead of looking at XPlay and XPlay giving Elden Ring a 5 out of 5, but then they also in their review talked about how inaccessible the game is, but that's also partly its charm. So like if you actually read the review, you would know that going into it instead of just assuming, oh my god, it's the best game ever, and like, oh, everyone will love it. That's what
Liam, Hogwarts Legacy is down as one of your alternates. So
cool.
There you go. I don't think there's not much scope for you to sub it in.
I did just want to say that one of the things I am concerned about, which I guess isn't that big of a concern because I'm going to buy it anyway, but I am a little bit worried about the media letting their own biases leak into their coverage of this game. I've already seen it. I think it's a bit over the top. I think if you can't control yourself when it comes to sort of trying to keep your own biases to yourself, I think then you shouldn't cover the game. And I'm a little bit worried and a little bit also intrigued as to what the reception is going to be like to this game when it does release.
Well, I know people. I know some people already that are probably not going to buy this game because of JK Rowling.
Yeah, and more power,
which is extreme disappointment. Even though I told them like, hey, and they're like, we know it's not being made by JK Rowling in any capacity, but I'm still kind of meh from Harry Potter.
Well, that's fine too. But I am interested to see whether the games media, which honestly has been getting worse over the years, in my opinion, I want to see whether they will cover the game to the best of their abilities in a fair sort of way. And I've already seen a bunch of previews and people talking about the game. I mean, I'm sorry, even though we're a sifted podcast, I was watching Matt and Shane talk about the game the other day, and they'd already made up their minds that they don't like the game and they hate it and it has no redeeming features. It was a bit difficult to watch, I would say, because it was clearly quite biased in that way. I would say it's just
I don't remember that. I may have glossed over it.
Yeah, I think I missed that too. I thought Matt thought it was okay. I didn't think he hated it.
Oh, he seemed to hate it. I mean, no. I've heard him talk about the Harry Potter books before, and he said
he hates the Harry Potter books, but I don't think he said he.
Yeah, no. What I mean is, I remember him talking about the Harry Potter books years ago, and him saying, "Oh yeah, they're just not my thing. They're fine, well written." This time when he talks about them, he goes, "Oh yeah, they're atrocious. She's a terrible author and a terrible writer," and I'm just like, that's quite a turnaround. I distinctly remember that.
Well, it's just he may have changed. He may have revised his opinion.
I think it's more if he might be because he still said he really enjoyed the 3 books of what they were as being this whimsical adventure for children, and that she just tried to grow up with her writing and it didn't really work as well. But I'm
not going to put words in anyone else's mouth. What I'm going to say is I've been replaying Titanfall 2.
With Evan?
No, not with Evan.
Oh, you should stream it. You should stream it in front of Evan because Evan would really enjoy that. as the best single player first person shooter ever.
Oh, come on, no. Not even close. I need to have somebody on my side when it comes to Elden Ring at the end of this goddamn year. Because
well, my roommate just bought Elden Ring, and he is off school for a few weeks, so I'm about to go chat with him about it, and he can tell me whether it's really good or really bad. So,
oh, I love it. It's great. I'm enamored. But
I was listening to someone the other day talking about Elden Ring, and they were basically outlining all of the RPG elements, all of the lore, and then said, I don't play Apex Legends because it's too complicated.
What?
Which I thought was hilarious. And on that note, we're out. It's not that complicated.
I appreciate the heads up that we're about to go out, and I still have to cover this stuff. I was like, is he giving me the hint that we're all done now and he's about to give it? So I was like, I gotta prep this.
You've got